Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this cold Friday morning over here at the Cherry Farm Park in Arkansas, right outside of Memphis. A little bit of snow flurries this morning. That's what we need. Look, we need blizzards once a week in the upper flyway states, folks. Sorry, you don't really need to go out other than to go bowling or something. But we need cold weather. Force the Ducks down here. It's been a rough season. I can't tell you how bad we need duck. We need to do the duck dance, okay? Hey, we do this 25 times a month, at least 300 times a year. It does not feel like work. It is love. It is fun talking about college football, SEC, your favorite team. We do it. We have the best guests, the best team members. And again, we do it. Follow us on all social media platforms. If you don't hear us live, of course, go to wherever you get your podcasts. I know a lot of my friends, when they fly coast to coast, they say, once the wheels are up, it's podcast city. So we hope that Sidelines is on that list of your favorite podcasts, and then the radio stations that pick it up. Blessed to have that as well. Let's get started right now over in Atlanta. 680 The Fan, Southern Sports today. Chuck Oliver, the king of college football in the South. Also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. I listen to his show. I love it. He talks college football year round. So twist my arm and we'll do it. Chuck, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and again, thanks for taking time to join us. How you doing?
Well, no, Rob, I appreciate you having me. Can you hear me all right? This is brand new technology.
You sound great
for me.
You sound perfect. This new StreamYard technology. I'm telling you what. The first time I tried to do it, it was like, what? How does this work? But it's easy. But I love this new format.
No, this is sorcery to me. And you and I, we try to schedule something all the time, even when we're like around each other for 4 days at media days, and it just never works because busy, and on sort of the same time, all the other stuff that makes it never work. And so for today, I said, my gosh, I'm going to call Rob and see if he can have me on the show because I'm off this week and I figured it worked. So I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Hey, we love it. Look, one of the things, and I wanted to mention this real quick, Dave Tompkins is on with us, part of our team over in Beaufort, South Carolina, born and raised in Mountain Brook, graduated from West Point, lifelong Alabama fan. Used to be the chief marketing director up at Churchill Downs. So we got a diverse crowd on here, but we all love talking football. But today in history, back in 1978, it was a Friday night. Woody Hayes took that swing at the Clemson linebacker. So he was no longer the coach after that. But man, your show, I love it. It's just guest after guest after guest. Great content all the time. And one of the things I was going to say is the state of college football, where we are now, kind of, you may wake up and find yourself saying, how did I get here? What are your thoughts on the game right now and where you think we're going?
First of all, Rob, what a tremendous question. And I'll jump on the Gator Bowl if you want. I hadn't thought about this like from this angle necessarily, but because you mentioned the Low Country. And you're right. I didn't realize it was 5 years ago tonight that Woody took a swing at Charlie Bauman. But you asked the state of the game. I'll use the Gator Bowl as the example. Growing up, kid in the South, I mean, you watched your teams through the regular season and into the bowl games. Gator Bowl, we have to be honest. Gator Bowl, the structure was way more important than Gator Bowl, the game. Mm-hmm. It was either second tier or even at the very bottom, kind of maybe above the Independence Bowl. But as far as the bowls we used to have, Gator Bowl, it was a fine, extra game, but it did not have prestige, and there was usually nothing attached to the outcome. Folks, Woody Hayes was the head coach at Ohio State. What kind of crap did Ohio State ever care about the Gator Bowl? That game was so important to him, he took a swing at a Clemson player when they lost it. Yeah. I was watching, I guess it would have been about 3 years later. I was in seventh grade, maybe. and it was Arkansas and North Carolina, and I watched blood sport unfold for two teams that never played each other and had almost no history, and they're like, hey, brother, we're getting after it. I watched a guy named Ethan Horton turn himself into a first-round pick that night in the Gator Bowl. Go watch the 84 game, and there's a reason. It's so funny you bring this up. For a totally different reason, I was watching the 84 Gator Bowl about a month ago. It was South Carolina and Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
South Carolina had gotten up to number 2 in America. They had one loss, and they're in the Gator Bowl playing, by the way, top 10 Oklahoma State. It looked like tug of war between the 40-yard lines with just this mass of humanity moving around the middle of the field. And I think it was a 14-7 final maybe. But the point is, if you look at that 84 Gator Bowl, it was number 9 versus number 7.
Yeah.
And the only reason you would have an outcome like you did with, hammer and tongue for 60 minutes between two top 10 teams is because the game still mattered. Yeah. And it mattered to every single kid on both rosters. It mattered to a Hall of Fame head coach to the point that he popped a kid on the other team.
Yeah.
It mattered to Art Schlechter enough that, hell, maybe he bet the under that night.
He probably bet the under. South Carolina's loss was to Navy. Navy beat South Carolina right before the Army-Navy game, and Army won that year. That was my senior year at West Point.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that was – and you're right. I think that wound up being like a 2-win Navy team. Yep. South Carolina, that is the high water mark in the history of the game. They beat Florida State on a Saturday night. Kid returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and they rose to number 2 in America after beating FSU, lost to Navy, I think the next week, came beat Clemson. Point is, they're number 7 in America, and they're going, we can go anywhere we want to. We're going to Gator Bowl, play number 19. Every kid on that team that was going to be an NFL player played in the Gator Bowl. A couple years before that, Hugh Green and George Rogers, the number 1 and number 10 overall pick, they both played in the Gator Bowl against one another, and there was nothing on the line. Dan Marino played that night. You get the point that the game, it really used to matter. And when you ask where we are now, Rob, I say all of that to circle back and say, I think we've been kind of busy looking the other way. We got distracted by Joe Burrow, but I think that's really the mark in time where something changed, and it was sort of funny in the moment. If y'all remember, Joe Burrow, after they beat Clemson, he runs over and he's hanging out in the student section, and somebody was asked, why you spent so much time over there? Do you remember his answer?
Because that's what I am.
No, he said, I wanted to meet some students before I left. He had never been on campus. He had never been in the commissary. He had never been in the bookstore. He took one class online, and that was the big story. He took one class online, and he went to football practice. He said, I wanted to meet some LSU students before I left. And I think we were so distracted by the amazing offense that year. And then in 2020, we were so happy that the SEC didn't jump on the panic parade. In 21 and 22, there were so many things to distract us, but I'm going to tell you, and I can't I flipped a switch. The room gets bright because of college football. Okay. I got food in the cabinet because of college football. We have been distracted by some unbelievable stories, and in particular, some offenses. The game is a little rotten right now. It really is. And I'm talking about the structure and the foundation of it. If you didn't see, Grayson McCall, wound up at NC State, the Coastal Carolina collective couldn't come up with the money to get just him, much less the rest of the team. He announces he's in the transfer portal. You know what was announced the next day? Coastal Carolina collective is shutting down. They put their palms up, locked the doors, soaped the windows, and left. That's where college football is. You're about to have a very small number of teams who can afford to field a team, and then a bunch of people who can field, a team that has the roster dotted with a little bit of very expensive talent. So this is at a real, real different place right now.
Yeah. And Chuck and Dave, the NIL collectives, on the surface, I don't like it. You can't pay people before they do anything. And then if they do give them a deal once they get there, Chuck, I hope there are teeth in those contracts. But I watched last night the bowl game. NC State was playing last night, and they were talking to the Peyton Wilson, I think the linebacker.
Yep.
And it was just such a diametrically opposing statement that he made. And he said, these are my brothers. I've been with these guys for all these years. And he's standing there in street clothes because he's getting ready for the NFL. I'd like you to go talk to my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, who served 26 years in the Marine Corps, and ask him 60 hours into the battle in Fallujah, going house to house, clearing houses, what would have happened if one of his men would have said, I'm going to take this one out. I'm kind of sleepy. I mean, I know that that's extreme, but I'm old school or whatever, but Dave is a West Point graduate. Your honor is dearer than your life. Chuck, I don't like that. That is, we got to stop that.
All I would say to that, because you're entitled to feel however you want, and I'm saying like literally anywhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what gets people the most attention, when they're beating you on the head with their beliefs, but then what they're doing is something different. Like, I mean, that was Hugh Freeze. I was like, get your freak on however you want. Just don't smack me in the face with the Bible at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That's between you and your wife, and I guess settling your expense account. But I mean that as serious as I can be. But you're right. Don't declare A and then absolutely 180 degrees away. But honestly, I was talking to Matt Stinchcomb last week, and he won what I guess it's like the academic Heisman. I called it the Smarty Pants Awards. It was the Grady, and now it is the Campbell Award, and it's basically the combination of you're really, really smart and you're an All-American football. And so Matt Stinchcomb won that. And he was a first-round pick of the Raiders in 98. And he said, or 99, he said, I knew I was going to be his first-round pick. He said, I was hurt for the Peach Bowl game. He said, we had 4 losses. We were not good. He said, and they had Patrick Kearney. He said, I tried to help the team. I went out there. He says, Chuck, I was already going to be a first-round pick. I was hurt going against an elite player. He said, all I could do was have bad tape. He says, and I had bad tape that night. He was like, there was no reason for me to play in that game based on today's sensibilities. He said, I looked at the trainer and I said, tape it up, wrap it up, do whatever you got to do. I got to get out there. He said, I will admit, and like I said, Matt Stinchcomb, he has as much substance as anyone you will come across.
Yes.
He said, given today's sensibilities, he said, I personally would not have come within 10 miles of that bowl game. That's how much the game has changed. And so all I'm saying, the kids are not indebted to me. They do not owe me anything. Now, I think there is a deal that I give you this scholarship. If we have a game, you're supposed to play in it.
Yes.
So there is that, but that's between them and the schools. I'm not owed anything, but what I have had taken away is the bowl games. I'll make one more reference here, and we're both men of a certain age. All of us are actually men of a certain age. I was in maybe a high school freshman, and there was a strike in the NFL. And I'll give the players credit. They quickly organized, and they broke up into a couple of teams and said they were going to start having all-star games in the barnstorming around America. And if that rings any sort of little bell to you, go back and look at it. It wasn't real legit teams, and so we didn't watch it. It was like the Pro Bowl. It wasn't a real team. Folks, these bowl games, they're not real teams anymore. They may not always be reflective of the next season because you could be losing so many players to the draft or graduation.
Yeah.
But they were always at least reflective of the season we just played.
Yeah.
And that is the big difference is like Miller Moss, I think he just used the USC bowl game as a pro day. Like literally, I think he used that as an opportunity to like, it was like that game Trey Lance played back in 2020. His school scheduled a 1-game season so that their draft pick could have a pro day. And everybody went along with it. So that's kind of when the veil started to come off, and that's where we are right now. And like I said, I'll be back on Monday all across the network, 60 stations, talking this game I love. But we've been looking the other way is what we've been doing.
Dave?
I completely agree. It's going to be interesting to see in 5 years from now how many players that got, say, $500,000 NIL deals who are 5 years from now are bankrupt. When you're 18 years old, you need to learn values. And you go to college to learn values. You go to get an academic education. But I think more importantly, you go to learn values and to network so you can be successful for the next 40 or 50 years of your life. If you're getting that much money, up front, and you don't have a career in the NFL, and you're thrust out into the world without having learned any values, Joe Burrow, and I want to meet some students. You have no intangible asset that you can monetize and extend, and you're just a loser in 5 years. And who benefits from that? I guess the boosters who are the fans that had the pleasure, the instant gratification of watching this person who's now bankrupt perform well for a couple of games. And it's the student, the player is not winning. Most of them are not winning through this NIL process, I believe. I would love to see, and I'm a total dreamer and hopeless romantic, so I don't think this is going to happen. But I would love to see, like, say, an Arch Manning say, okay, here's my NIL deal. I'm getting $250,000 for showing up and putting on a uniform. I get a $1.5 million bonus to that if we make a bowl game and if I play in the bowl game. I get another $3 million if we win the SEC championship, and I get $8 million more if we win the national championship. Something like that, where there's incentives where, okay, and Arch Manning deserves to get a much bigger NIL contract than someone else. But if you back end it like the Otani or whatever the Japanese baseball player did with his Dodger contract. I love that. I love that. That's a forward thinker right there. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I want to say, as I run, you're right about the age thing and the experience. It's even a little more dangerous than before because an 18, 19, or 20-year-old had never had a taste of it, had never been able to swim in the money bucket. And now if they do, and then suddenly it's gone, even the expectations have been skewed. But what you're talking about, the age thing, did you know Rob was my first, I guess technically my first boss in the business? Did you know that? way back at Auburn, way back. And when you talk about age, I had a mullet, drove an IROC Z28. I mean, we do not make good decisions when we're of that age. And I didn't even have money, and I made bad decisions. If I would have had money, I'd have made some really, really bad decisions. So you're exactly right. There's, it's just such a tough situation right now. But I appreciate you having me on, brother. Thank you so much, Rob.
Let them know how they can follow you, because you have an awesome show. Everybody needs to put that app on their phone. One of the genuinely good people in college sports. You listen to Chuck every day, you're going to be feeling better about life. But let them know how they can follow you. And thank you so much for being on.
Well, I appreciate that. It was good to meet you as well. We got I'm King CFB on Twitter, if you want, and then you can get all the links from there. But the Chuck Oliver Show, we do it live every day, 11 to 1, 9 states and 60 stations. King CFB on Twitter, and then it's southernsportstoday.com. That is the network. They own me. And it's the Chuck Oliver Show. And like I said, I've been doing it since the beginning of the 14th season. So we're now 9+ years. So it's just a blessing.
Hey, love it, man. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, brother.
All right, take care. Chuck Oliver, and absolutely love his show. And I was a senior when he was a freshman, and we started Sidelines back then. It was just on Thursday nights at 6:00, and it was a lot of fun. And I would have coaches like Pat Sullivan would come in, Pat Dye, Sonny Smith. Those were all my guests that built the show. And Sonny Smith still comes on the show. Sonny Smith is such a genuinely nice person, and I bet he's been around a long time, and he's sharp as a tack. And he would you could go sit in his office as a writer for the Auburn Plainsman or for Weagle, WEGL, the radio station, and he would just open up and talk to you. You say, we'll never see that again. I bet we will, because Dave, you've got an MBA from Stanford. You're very smart, but you can take all that complex minutia and put it in the vernacular with relative ease. And that's what you and I are the same age. That is so critically important. And also, since I've gotten to know you through Maury and then just you and I texting a lot, born and raised in Mountain Brook, there goes Stedman, Chile, Bromberg. Gary Harris is on the show yesterday, WVUA Channel 23. And we're talking about, the history and the tradition of of college football. And I got to show you something. And he sent this to me. It's on Alabama Public TV. And for our listeners, whoever you're a fan of, it's worth watching. Roses of Crimson. It's about 20 years ago, Alabama Public TV did this documentary, and Public TV does some outstanding work. Roses of Crimson will air Saturday, December 30th at 5 p.m. Central, Sunday, December 31st at 10 p.m. Central, Monday, January 1st at 9 p.m. Central, only on WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa. Go to their website and watch this. And this will remind you of why the South, because for 60 years after the war between the states, the South had basically been emasculated. It was not a good time. And when Alabama, they were the fourth or fifth team, everybody else turned it down to go across the country to the Rose Bowl. Washington, we talked about it yesterday, they were the superpower, Dave, back then. And Alabama's down in the third quarter, 19-7. They come back and win 20-19. And that 8-day train trip on the way back, at every stop, thousands of people lined up in tears, waving flags, playing Dixie, because that was Southern pride. And again, as Gary said, you know, Dixie's Southern pride. It's part of the Alabama's fight song and all. But we all the schools in the South jumped on board and were behind Alabama back then. They all sent them letters of congratulations. And see, look, I am an Auburn man. I'm an Auburn grad. You're a West Point grad. You love Alabama, love the Black Knights of the Hudson. We all pull for different schools. And I'm going to tell you something. That's called the free market, because we're all married into each other and everything. But that's where it all started. It's personal in the South.
And it continued through my childhood. Growing up in Birmingham, Alabama in the 60s and 70s, Birmingham was for many good reasons was not in favor and not in the favor of the national media and the national reputation for many good reasons. But we could always look to Saturday and the Crimson Tide, Coach Bryant, and our low self-esteem would be elevated to, we would puff out our chest because we were Alabama, and we could beat USC, we could beat Oklahoma, we couldn't beat Notre Dame back then, but we could beat pretty much everyone else. And then, probably, I think, in my opinion, one of the most important things in racial integration, the integration of sports, happened at Legion Field in 1970 when Sam Bam Cunningham ran all over an all-white Alabama team. Yeah. And after that, the team was integrated, and onward we go, and the national championships of the 70s for Coach Bryant followed the ones he had in the early 60s. Yeah, it was an incredible time. It's very personal to me, having grown up in Birmingham then, and Birmingham now, and just I can't wait to watch that documentary and put myself back in 1925. Remember the Rose Bowl, we'll win then, as part of the Alabama fight song.
Yeah, it's incredible. Ken Capps joins us now. He just landed in New Orleans. Hell of a Greyhound bus ride from the Metroplex of Dallas. Took him 2.5 days, 173 stops, but he is on his feet and rolling. There's nothing like landing in New Orleans, whether you come in on the train or the plane, going straight into the quarter, get a bowl of red beans and rice on no sleep, and man, you can do anything. A lot of good carbs and protein. This is Dave Tompkins, Ken, from over in the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina. Birmingham native, West Point graduate, Alabama fan. He's part of what we call Savant Saturday. He also comes on during the week. So Ken is Football Writers Association of America. One of the, again, genuinely good people you'll meet. We had Chuck Oliver on from Atlanta just before you came on, talking about the state of college football. And again, where does everyone remember where they were that Friday night on this day in 1978 when Woody Hayes punched the Clemson player? Say what you want about Woody Hayes, but I'll tell you an interesting story. I'm wound up, Ken, and I'm going to get you to take over after this. A friend of mine told me when Coach Bryant died, Woody Hayes was at the funeral, and he had taken – coaches didn't get paid a lot back then. He took the bus from Columbus, Ohio, down to Birmingham for the funeral. And some of the Alabama folks spotted him in the crowd and made sure they took care of him, and they flew him back to Columbus. That's the kind of respect and reverence for the game. And all these sardonic, sarcastic, cynic jackasses out there that keep saying, oh, they know everything. The real stories are the people like Woody Hayes. Yeah, he screwed up. We know he did. But that man's life, look at the people's lives he impacted, and you find a Woody Hayes player that wouldn't run through a brick wall for him. Ken Capps, you know what I'm talking about. You grew up knowing Darrell K. Royal. That's a badass. Okay, that's a man's man.
Yeah, in fact, yesterday at the Cotton Bowl breakfast, Eli Drinkwitz was laying a lot of good compliments on Ohio State coach Ryan Day, and the moderator Brad Sham, who's the announcer for the Dallas Cowboys, actually quoted Darrell Royal, and he said, "Coach Drinkwitz, you remind me of a quote from Darrell Royal, which was, you're peeing on my boots and telling me it's raining."
The outlaw Josie Wales, remember that? It
was good to hear. It was good to hear Coach Royal quoted. He's a heck of a man, heck of a leader. I was fortunate to get to know him before he passed away, and guys like Bo Schembechler, Coach Bryant, Coach Royal, Coach Hayes, they don't make them like that anymore, and they're very few and far between. And it's going to be very interesting tomorrow. What's going to go on here in New Orleans, because the Washington coach was named the Football Writers Coach of the Year, and there are a number of other outlets out there who named Steve Sarkisian of Texas as their Coach of the Year. So, you've got two great coaches that are going to be here. The Texas players are going to meet the media here at 9:00. And I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm really excited. And as you can see, even though I'm a Texas grad, I've got on my black, neutral Switzerland attire, because hey, I'm working here as a journalist, not as a Homer fan.
The Texas X.
Well, the
Texas
rules.
X.
Hey, one of the biggest backside and chewings I've ever had in my life was when I cheered without thinking in the press box in an Auburn game, and I didn't do it anymore. David Housel laid the law down. The sports information director at Auburn said, "No matter how much you love Auburn, here this is a working press box.
Yes,
you're a host, and there are people from all over the country, and you got to remember that." And that's the way it should be. But also, I do wish, guys, we're going to take a break, but I just wish that the guys you see on ESPN and a lot of the Fox Sports and all would be more honest and quit towing the party line, quit drinking the Kool-Aid, get your head out of the sand and start telling the truth. When we have Roman Harper on this show, I call him a truth broker. If you ask Roman, does the dress make me look fat? He'll look at you betcha. I mean, you've got to tell the truth, because in my line of work as a financial advisor, if someone says, hey, we've got X number of dollars we want to put here and it's not good for them, I got to tell them, even though I'm missing out on income, because your honor is dearer than your life. Let's take a quick break. We're going to be right back. We got Dave Tompkins in the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina. Ken Capps down in New Orleans, Football Writers Association of America. Bo Carter will be joining us from the Cotton Bowl in just a minute. And MJ's in there cooking food, and I'm fasting till noon, and it's torture. I'll be drooling like the dogs, but we'll be right back.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit. Mommy. Win, 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 win.
All right, Rob Browne back here. Sidelines on this Friday morning, going into New Year's Eve coming up Sunday. We'll be back on again tomorrow for Savant Saturday. It'll be a lot of fun. I love college football. And I was listening to that Talking Head song before the show. Well, we know where we are. You know, how did we get here? You know, do we know
we're on the road to nowhere.
Yeah, we're on the road. But you know what? And Ken, you know this. And you know this, Dave, the free market in America, just don't get in the way. There's a saying in the stock market, don't fight the tape, you know, the ticker. The stock market's a discount mechanism, usually 6 to 12 months into the future. It's kind of telling you where you're going. But I think that where we are, you know, in college football, it's people love to wake up in the morning when it's raining and complain. My philosophy is, get your rain gear on and go. Get ahead of people. You know, why do people get up at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning? They like to have the high ground. They don't want to be running around with their hair on fire because they're running late. MJ over here, you know, if he's at the farm, he'll get up in the morning early, 5:30 or 6, and ride around with the dogs and scout. We're always scouting, looking around. College football, the free market's going to work it out. Ken is a great writer. And William, the intern, is going to be on with us later in the show. I know you got to leave at 9, though, to go to that press conference. But history, traditions, and heroes. Robert Durham, John Hearn, Maury Gaston, always, that's their motto with Sigma Nu. They always, but it's true. The young players, I think what we need to be doing is teaching them more history about the school where they are. So they won't keep thinking that, oh, without me, Texas or Alabama or Georgia wouldn't exist. Hey, those schools have been around 200, 225 years, man. That's like embedded capital gains. You know,
That's
that
right.
school's going to be great. They're going to be fine with or without you.
Well, that's a very good point. And you know, Ryan Day actually brought this up yesterday at Media Day. Somebody asked him a question, you know, about the transfer portal and all these different, you know, students moving around and players going from here to there. And, you know, he said, we want people coming to Ohio State that understand the tradition of Ohio State and know what those Buckeyes are about on the helmet. And definitely, you know, it says the same. It works both ways. But he goes, we don't want to pull kids out of the transfer. You know, he's not a transfer portal guy at all. And he says, you know, we'll look at it, but if we don't think if we think this kid is just going to be a hired gun and is not going to come in and be a true Ohio State Buckeye who understands the tradition of this school, the expectations of this school, that we're not going to go get him. And you know, that's really kind of a different opinion than a lot of people out there, as Dave knows as well. I mean, you know, everybody's looking for hired guns these days, and that's just the way it's going to be. And another thing I thought was very interesting yesterday that he and Eli Drinkwitz talked about. You're talking about changes in college football. You know, he said there is no way that the calendar for college football can stay the same it is. You can't have the transfer portal, this National Signing Day in December, recruiting, and bowl games all going on in 30 days. It's just, you kids can't do it.
Not
And
to mention a 4-round playoff.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing they talked about yesterday. These bowl games now, when you get up here in the upper echelons, they'll have like a week worth of festivities and things going on for the players to do. Go visit children's hospitals, go do things in the community. They're going to get to the playoff site, wherever it is, only like maybe 2 days before the game. And so it's going to be a whole different ball game for so many of these cities too, that, that expect, that bring in a lot of tourists because of these games and get a lot of millions of dollars in economic activity because of these games. And I thought they said some really thought-provoking things yesterday that I hadn't really thought about. And so that you bring up a very good point, Rob.
Yeah, and Bo Carter's joined us now, one of the great sages, one of the oracles of journalistic Delphi, the oracles of Delphi. That was terrible. My dad, of course, is going to say, boy, don't use fancy words and fancy terms if they don't rhyme. Good God. No, but Bo Carter, just to give you a little bit of background, Bo, this is Dave Tompkins, part of Savant Saturday from the Low Country, Beaufort, South Carolina, and West Point grad, Alabama fan from Mountain Brook. And Bo, you are, again, one of the wise ones. You're down there covering the Cotton Bowl right now. One thing about the bowl games that I love is all the people that you get to meet and the relationships and the stories. The Army's wonderful. In basic training in 13 weeks, you will learn about 10 hours of Army history. Now, in the Marine Corps in basic training, my brother-in-law will tell me this, you'll learn about 100 hours of Marine history. Now, Dave is a West Point grad. He knows this, but you get into the Ranger Battalion. You go to Ranger School. You're going to learn about all that. But the more you know about the people that came before you, the less of a selfish, jackass, narcissist you're likely to be. I'm not holding back today. You know what? What was the movie Network? I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Bo was in that movie.
Yeah, I was in. Yeah, I played William Holden's gaffer.
That was it. Was William Holden.
No, but Rob, we got to get you to the Liberty Bowl at 11 o'clock, man. We got to get you
exactly.
Get you a little breakfast. But
man,
Dave,
it is.
Oh yeah,
wow,
and,
I love it.
Well, we got Dave here. Dave, I still wish that Army and Navy. I understand what went on with all these December 16th bowls, but I and Ken might agree with. I wish they'd held a spot for the winner of the Army Navy game in one of the bowls. It would have been a really quick turnaround to go to Frisco or one of those other 5 bowls, but kind of unfair. And somebody said, well, they decided to play on that date, but it's they really should be rewarded like the Air Force Academy.
I agree. I agree.
For a 6-6, there's even a 5-7 Minnesota team in there, which was kind of a bummer. But anyway, it's been a great bowl season.
I'm super excited about Army next year. I think this transition to the offense is going to start to really pay dividends next year. I love our coach. As long as he's there, we have a fighting chance to be the 12th seed in a playoff one year, and that'll be my dream come true.
Well, Dave, I got to tell you this too. It was so much fun. Me and Bo covered the Army Air Force game that was in Globe Life Field where the Rangers play in 2022. And it was so funny. It was so funny because it was really cold that day. And so they had the roof closed. However, both schools were going to do, we didn't know this, but both schools were going to do flyovers. So about 10 minutes before the game, they roll this roof open. It only takes about 7 minutes for that roof to come completely open. Wow. All the Air Force jets fly over, all the Army helicopters fly over, and then what do? They flip the switch and close the roof.
I sure wish they would continue to do that. I would love to see the Army Air Force game travel and go to, outside go to Atlanta, we played my junior year, we played in the Rose Bowl, just travel around the country. That just like the Army Navy game is doing now throughout the Northeast. I wish the Army Air Force would do that as well.
I didn't think about
I
that. That's
totally
a great
agree.
idea. Yeah. I mean, I tell my friend Tim Hortons, the running backs coach at Air Force, he calls the training section there the submarine. Because and that's, he said, you don't have a problem with your players being on time and motivated. I mean, these are people. I used to say when I was a reporter out at Fort Benning for Channel 3 in Columbus, News 3 on your side, WRBL. But I remember being out there, and the Ranger instructor, they called them the RIs, as you know, Dave, and they would say, you guys are triple crazy. You were crazy enough to volunteer to join the Army, crazy enough to volunteer to go to airborne school, and crazy enough to volunteer to go to Ranger school. What more can I ask of you? Gentlemen, we're going to have fun. But it's just something, there's something about great people. It's all organic. College football, man, let's write some stories. Dave, this is a segment I like to do because, with my mind being ADHD and OCD, whatever, NFL, NBA, CHL, whatever, I need structure. So I'm going to start off with Bo. You see a game being played, and I'll use this often used term. It's like herding cats. But if someone said, Bo, write me a story right now about where we are in college football and where you think we're going to be in 5 years, allowing for the wonderful free market to play a role.
Well, I think we're going to have, this could be within the next 3 years, we're going to have the SEC and the Big Ten with about 25 teams. And I'm being facetious there, but I mean, they're going to have the two super conferences. And I think the Big 12 is going to make it. Ken may agree or disagree. I think he's on our side of it. So, and I believe that it's at some point very soon the football schools are going to break away from the NCAA. It's just, I mean, just the way things are. It started in '83 with Oklahoma and Georgia, and it's just continued to be and Florida State's deal right now is really they could break up the ACC, unfortunately. So it's a good news, bad news, I guess.
Okay. All right. The McLaughlin Group. Ken Caps, you're on.
Well, I go back. I don't think you can look 5 years into the future because Lord knows what will happen in 5 years. Because every time something changes in football, in college football, there are unexpected consequences. And this is exactly what Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz was talking about yesterday. So you have you've got the transfer portal, and then you've got signing day, and then you've got recruiting, and then you've got a bowl game. And did anybody ever sit down before they put all this together and think, somebody raise their hand and say, hey, that's all going on in the same month. Do you think that's going to work? Apparently not. And so I think that I'm looking forward to the playoff. I really, really am. And I think it's going to solve a lot of problems. Like the Florida State problem this year, et cetera. But of course, you're going to have a 12-team playoff. But whoever's the 13th team is now going to be the person griping. And but I think whatever's going to happen next, there's going to be a whole nother set of problems that people haven't thought about yet. And I guess my only and I've really been thinking about this. It's hard to believe that I've actually been thinking about this for 12 hours, but because what he said was very interesting, that, you have to have more. You just have to have more time. And the other thing he said, and I really like this because I'm always about the student and about the player. You're asking a kid who's not even finished his exams for the fall semester to make all these pressurized decisions, in early December. And he's absolutely right. And he said, it puts pressure on the parents. It's a mental health issue. It's a physical health issue. And so that's where I'm coming from. But one other thing I just wanted to add about Eli, and I wish he'd have talked about it yesterday, but everybody was being pretty serious. That he has like the biggest Air Jordan collection, like maybe in the United States of America.
Yeah.
And and he's got them on display in his house in Missouri. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to talk to him about that. So, Bo, if you're going out, if you get a chance to talk to him today, would you please ask him how many Air Jordans he's up to now, and if he got what kind of pair he got this year to add to his collection? I'd really appreciate it.
We will.
And he's an interesting guy, Dave. And Ken and Bo, Dave brought this up a couple of weeks ago about West Point grad. Then when he got out, got his MBA at Stanford. What's happened to that athletic department? And Dave, you've got such a perspective on it. Their endowment is ginormous. Their athletic endowment is super ginormous. Again, how did they get here? Give us your commentary on that, and what could happen to other schools if you've got clowns in charge.
Well, what I talked about a couple weeks ago is that there's a silent war going on at Stanford right now between the alumni, the people that write the big checks, and there's a lot of alumni at Stanford that can write some really, really big checks.
Yeah.
And with the complete collapse of the athletic department, beginning with football, but also with basketball, no longer winning the Sears. I mean, our we thought our eminent domain was the Sears Cup because we would win that every year. And we had with Dennis Green, Bill Walsh, Harbaugh, we had great coaches and a great, we see the remnants of it now with Christian McCaffrey and earlier with Andrew Luck, but all that's gone now. And it doesn't look like it's ever going to be able to come back. And the alumni are just pissed off at the athletic department, at the university. And, they're looking to, how do we now directly fund the athletic department? And let's get a program back. We want a football team back. Mm-hmm. We've lost it. We want a basketball. At Stanford, we recall our one Final Four in 1998 and Mad Dog Madsen and that team. And man, that was a long time ago. And we haven't made the big dance in like 7 or 8 years. And it sucks to be a Stanford fan now. I think it's the beginning. And I think, Bo was talking about, 2 football super conferences in the future and all the people that are going to be on the outside looking in there and all the alumni. That's going to create some friction and hopefully some action. Mm-hmm. I think the same is going to happen or something similar is going to happen in basketball. It won't be just the SEC and the Big Ten. Obviously, the Big 12 is, I think, the strongest basketball conference. Yeah. Of course, there's the ACC, and then there's the Big East with teams like UConn. I look to golf, and I think with what's going on with golf now and LIV and the PGA Tour and the DP Tour and trying to work something out. Well, what's happened most recently in golf is that a leader has emerged who said, "Gee, we're going to work this out," and that leader is Tiger Woods. And I think college football needs a Tiger Woods type sort of force of personality to get everyone in a room and saying, we're not leaving this room until we work something out where we still have an entertaining product, because that's what we have right now, a very entertaining product. But we also have something where we're doing these kids a service and not a disservice, which I believe NIL is doing.
Yeah. You know what? Jackie Sherrill, the fall of 1992, Memphis Touchdown Club. He spoke, and I was there. He saw this vision. He said, going forward, we're going to have, probably 4 super conferences, about 64, 65 teams, because Notre Dame will always be the odd man out, but they'll be at the party. I guarantee you that. There's 75 million Catholics in this country that'll watch anything. They can watch them, do an etch and sketch. But the bottom line is the future, and Jackie Sherrill said this on the show about a month ago. The man is very, very smart, and he's wise. And he said, look, you'll have the 64, and then you'll have the other teams, and they'll have their own playoff. And I can assure you they will be just as passionate and just as hungry to win their national championship as the others, okay? And again, cynicism is what people who are too lazy to find solutions flock to, okay? It's like on the sales floor. The guys that are making all the money, well, they're cheating. They're doing something wrong. No, they're out working your ass. They're making those extra 5 or 10. They're out there making those extra 5 or 10 phone calls when you are watching the clock to get off the floor, okay? I had a guy tell me one time, Let me tell you something. If you go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, the few people that you pass coming and going on the way to work, those are the people that run this country, that run this world. You want to call them then before all the gatekeepers, before Mildred, the secretary, gets in there and goes, I'm sorry, he's busy, as they smoke while they're talking to you. So, that's where we're going to go. We will break it. I see it happening. The Big 12, no question, strongest basketball conference, top to bottom in America. But you know what? I'll make a prediction. I've been saying this. I really do. Chip Kelly, he has a much bigger platform than I do. A smug, unhappy man from New Hampshire, but by that anyway. But he's right. And he said, I think what's going to happen is maybe not even 2 years of this cross-country travel. I talk about it all the time. Rutgers, Oregon plays at Rutgers on a Wednesday night volleyball game, or, women's lacrosse or something in a snowstorm, which often happens on the East Coast, locks them there for 3 or 4 days, and they forget to take enough books, and they start falling behind. All these kids are flunking out. By the way, is anyone ever ruled academically ineligible anymore? Or has everybody just gotten that much smarter? Kids take the ACT 30 times from 7th grade. I took it one time, and I was spinning around the room from the party the night before, but I digress. But I'm going to tell you, this is where we're going to – you watch all this stuff work itself out. I think you're going to see football. We've always tried to do this. Make it a separate island, okay? It makes everything else grow. I had a coach tell me a couple of weeks ago, very smart coach, tell me, when you say you want to be in everything school and great in every sport, you become crappy in a lot of things. You better make football number one. What makes the grass grow? College football. Everything else, you got a handful of schools that make money in baseball and basketball, and even fewer in women's basketball. So you know what? It's all local, though. Every fan base, when you criticize a school and say they're terrible, they suck, blah, blah, it's like telling someone their kids are ugly.
Right.
Be very careful about that.
It's football and it's March Madness. Those are the two money makers. And they deserve consideration for being the money makers. And I think they deserve some special rules. But yeah, all the other athletes, all the other Title IX athletes, they deserve consideration too. And you don't want a world where the Rutgers women are flying out to Los Angeles in the middle of the week to play a volleyball game. That's just wrong on so many levels, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it wears remember, golly, okay, they are student athletes. They're there to get an education. I mean, and again, it's not that we don't like volleyball. I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. I don't have anything against women's sports, but also saying, you shrinking to make other people around you feel less uncomfortable because you're the fastest runner or the strongest weightlifter or the fastest swimmer, you slowing down to let other people get close. That's nonsense. Bo Carter, you know that.
Yeah, it really is. And Dave's got some great points too. Rob's, I was just thinking about Stanford, my alma mater, Vanderbilt, which it looked like they were making some progress about 2 years ago, and then just lost 10 in a row this year to end the season. But yeah, you can enjoy football and March Madness are the two big money makers, and you might have an 11-1 women's basketball team ranked number 5 in the country, but people are looking at football and men's basketball, maybe baseball too, Dave. Stanford and Vandy, 2 great programs there. And Texas, Ken Cap's school, the Longhorns, can 46 trips to the NCAA World Series or something. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Ken, I got to ask you, Texas is a school that is good in damn near everything. And now football is really good again. Ken, were you surprised at how quickly Steve Sarkisian turned things around at Texas? Because that brand is like that giant bonfire that you build on the camping trip. The next morning you go out there and you just kind of blow on the coals, throw a couple of sticks on there, and just that flame's going. By the way, Ken, you're looking at my map in the background. that Barnwood Brenda made me for the set? What's the
I've
biggest
told
thing
you.
on there? That orange Texas.
I've told you. Tell that lady to make me one, and I'll pay her for it.
All right, you want one? She'll make you one. Yeah.
I'll pay her for it.
All right,
Yes, I am surprised. Yes, I am surprised that in only his third year at Texas, that that the Longhorns are in a position to play for the national championship game. I thought it would take a lot longer. Somebody brought up a very interesting point, though, that a lot of these kids that are seniors this year, they are all Tom Herman's recruits. So there is still a lot of there's a lot of Tom Herman in there. But you know what Sark did was he came in. And he really came in, you know, I'm glad he did. He kind of, you know, came in with a Nick Saban attitude and, you know, just sat down with everybody and said, look, you know, do you want to be part of this program or not? Because Texas had a lot of kids that were, you know, slacking off and were being bad influences on the program. And the number one thing that Steve Sarkisian talks about now is the culture. You know, the culture. And you can tell, I can tell from, you know, being around the program for 45 years that there is a different culture, that kids play for each other now rather than just playing for themselves. Now, and I think what the ultimate irony is, the more you play for each other, the better you are and the more attention and, you know, accolades you get. So, yes, I mean, and nobody at the beginning of this season thought that Texas would be in this position at all. And it just brings me to my last point before I'm going to have to jump off here. But, you know, I really thought about this, and guys, let me know what you think, if you agree with me or not. Y'all can talk this up after I go. But I was looking at the season and think about it. The September 10th Texas at Alabama game might be the most important college football game that was played this year, because Texas, you know, they won that game. They put themselves on the map. If they hadn't let Dylan Gabriel drive down the field with no timeouts and a minute to play, Texas would be undefeated right now. That was against Oklahoma. But if Alabama had won that game, Alabama might possibly be undefeated, and Texas would be nowhere to be found in the CFP. So It's really interesting when you look back at it. Would you agree with me, Bo, on that?
Yeah, it's a quirk of fate on both of them. And I was going to say, Rob, you can take Oklahoma off that map. They played with the freshman quarterback. They stunk it up against Arizona.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold. You know, they said he was.
Give Arizona credit. They turned the whole thing. What, they won 9 of the last 10 games.
They did. And hey, Bo, and anybody, if you want one of these maps, I paid Brenda $800, and it took her about 25 or 30 hours. That's a bargain. $800 for these maps. They're carved out of cypress. And Ken, she asked me the other day, she hurt her hand and had to have surgery, and she's now about recovered. She said, one of your guests on the show, she goes, I think it was the gentleman from Texas, had asked for one. And I said, I was trying to remember. And so I'm just texting her. She's going to have that ready for you, and we'll get it to you. And I'm going to tell you something. All of y'all are making great points about what's happening in college football. And you know what? Common sense tells me free market will work this stuff out.
Amen.
We're all panicking. So if we break up into 65 and then 68, because right now there's 133 Division I schools, so be it. You know what? It'll still matter to the fan bases of every school. And then you won't have people saying it's just a monopoly at the top. You'll have two different groups, okay? And look, you have a lot of people who are in the Navy, and they do their thing in the Navy. Then there are people who are Navy SEALs. Not everybody was cut out to be a Navy SEAL. Not everybody wants to be an Army Ranger. You know, if someone's got to deploy cruise missiles like Dave did, but Dave could have done anything he wanted with the educational background, science and math. By the way, those are novel concepts in today's world. Teaching science and math. By the way, I was at the Auburn-Vandy game, and at halftime, in the woke culture of Vandy, they had 10 people instead of a homecoming court. They listed all their majors like the antiquities, the humanities, undecided people. I'm like, undecided? What? And then they had one kid who was a science and mathematics. I'm going, they'll all be working for her.
Right.
You got to be kidding me. With John McEnroe, you can't be serious. Okay. Ken, do you have to go?
Yeah, I got to go. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy new year, both on this show and also all of our audience. And it's going to be a great few days. And I look forward to talking to y'all next week and seeing where it all shakes out.
Hey,
Hook 'em. We want to rematch.
Yeah, all your hard work, Ken, as a writer, we appreciate it. And we love having you on here. We cannot do this without you. So God bless you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And be careful. You're an awesome husband and father. Take care. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to take a quick break. Here he is, folks. Billy Ray Capricorn. Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn. That's what he said in the movie. You got to watch Trading Places. William Halliday, the intern, sophomore, 6'1", 183-pound writer for the Auburn Plainsmen from MUS in Memphis. Dave Tompkins in the Low Country, Beaufort, South Carolina. Dave, you mentioned that you may have to get to bowling practice, but stay on with us if you can. We'd love having you on.
I'll need to leave probably at 15 minutes past the hour.
Okay. We'll take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. We've got Bo Carter down in the Metroplex covering the Cotton Bowl. Lot to talk about in HR-2. Right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here. We got a great crowd on here today. College football, all these games, the bowl games, I watched a ton of them, and I'm becoming the biggest fan of these schools and the bowl games where neither team has players quitting. Again, don't give me the washed, the cleansed opting out. You're a quitter. You can't call it anything else. You're a quitter. Peyton Wilson, Dick Butkus recently put into the ground, he just died recently, is rolling in his fresh grave that Peyton Wilson, the winner of the Butkus Award, the linebacker at NC State, these are my brothers, will be close for life. And you're standing on the sidelines while your teammates are out there fighting to get the W last night. I'm sorry.
Bryce Young did not do that last year. Bryce Young
did not. Neither did Will Anderson. And I love those guys because they hung in there and they fought. You know what? If you're going to call someone your brother, a band of brothers, like that great series on HBO about the 101st Airborne, and that, by the way, I was at VMI June 26th of 2009 with Hallie Wilson and Max, my kids, taking a tour. I've been up there 35, 40 times, but my kids had not taken the tour. And I'm looking to my left, and you know who was standing there? Whitey from Band of Brothers, one of a legitimate American hero. And it's like when my kids met Marcus Luttrell, Navy SEAL, the Lone Survivor movie was about. Met him 4th of July after Mass on a Sunday, July 4th, 2010 at Patriot Lake in Memphis. I introduced my kids to him after he spoke. It was just us and someone else and my two boys. My daughter wasn't with us. But I said, he doesn't slam dunk a basketball. He doesn't hit home runs, and he doesn't score touchdowns. but I believe for the first time in your life, you have met a genuine in the flesh American hero, someone who puts his life on the line. So you got the right to live free. And Marcus Luttrell looked at me, and I never met. He's 6'5". He's a lot bigger than me. And he said, "Sir, I don't think I've ever had anybody say that, but but recognize greatness and give credit where it's due. But if you're going to say that you're a band of brothers and you think, okay, fans can't get hurt going to the games. You think it doesn't cost people money to go to the games, gas, hotels. Oh, I'm worried about my NFL career. Hey, shut up. You know what? What about you're a medical student. And I had a doctor recently say these first-year medical students, the residents, these young kids coming in nowadays, they whine and complain and cry because they got to work these 36-hour rotations. And then if you chew their ass, they go complain to human resources, and there's a mound of paperwork you got to file with. Maybe go find another profession. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now.
You need to fast more often, man. You're sitting here fasting on Friday, and you got the red ass.
Roll, but I was just talking with a young doctor, orthopedic surgeon. I love this kid. He's 33 years old, 15 years, 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school, 5 years as a resident, then another year as a fellowship, 14 years. And he's just now making more than $45,000 a year. 14 years. You want to say doctors are overpaid? You find me a profession where you got to work your ass off like that. You think he ever opted out? I'm opting out of surgery. Well, this guy's going to die if you don't operate. I'm opting out. I don't want to hurt my hands. Give me your best. The hell with the rest. William, love having you on here. William, the intern. Right now, you've been watching every bowl game, taking notes. Bo Carter, Dave Tompkins are on here with you. What's been the takeaway right now from the bowl games that you've watched? And are there some teams that you've seen play that maybe could have done well in the playoffs?
Well, one game that I watched that really interested me was the Texas A&M game. They had a guy from NBA play that I remember watching in high school named Marcel Reed. He was a freshman when I was a sophomore, and they beat us. And he was crazy good. He ended up going off for 300 yards in Texas A&M bowl game. I thought he did really well, except score a touchdown. That would have been nice if he could do that. And I think it shows like the progression that he made through his freshman year. But that was just a game that I watched, and I thought it was really fun to see him play well, considering I watched him in high school.
Wait. You talk about Reed, the quarterback for A&M.
Yes.
That guy's a basketball player and football. I mean, he was really good. What? He's a freshman?
He's a freshman.
Oh, how tall is he?
6'2".
Bo, Dave, I watched that kid and I was like, he's like Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray's like 5'8". This kid's 6'2". William, is he going to keep playing football? I know they were kind of desperate with the people quitting on the team.
Right.
I believe so. I mean, I don't think he's going to probably play basketball as much as he will football, but that's good.
Yeah, I mean, guys,
kind of reminds me
that's
of,
my quarterback.
Remember when Donovan McNabb played both basketball and football at Syracuse?
Yeah, he did. And Charlie Ward out of Thomasville, Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Ward, another
basketball. Florida State Seminoles, Gene Deckerhoff. Here comes Chief Osceola aboard Renegade. He's coming out to the 50 and throws the spear. And this crowd at Bowden S. Campbell Stadium is on their feet. And it's going to be a wild one. The Spanish moss is swinging. Look, that's a deference to Gene Deckerhoff, the great play-by-play radio announcer for the Florida State Seminole Network. And then on Sundays, he would call the Tampa Bay Buccaneers games, which I think he still does.
He is. He still is. It's amazing.
Holy cow. By the way, William, before I go back to the Oracles of Delphi here, have you seen the SEC Network special on Bart Starr?
I have not. The one I've seen recently was on the Heisman race, and what was it? Was it 1998? 97 with Peyton Manning. That's the one that I've seen recently.
What was your dad's comment? His dad, Bubba, perhaps Tennessee's biggest fan in the world. Touchdown, Big Orange. What did Bubba think about that? Your dad?
Well, I think he obviously was disappointed in the Heisman committee on that one. I mean, I think it was Charles Woodson that won that. Yeah. He obviously had a great season, especially considering that he played both sides of the football, offense and defense, and he was an amazing athlete in that. But I think Peyton Manning, with the season he had, obviously, I think people just wanted to see him win, especially with him being the number 1 overall pick in the draft in that following year. So I think,
when your dad was a freshman at Tennessee, I think he lived in Hess Hall, the dormitory, and he was an SA up there. My friend said that he used to yell out the window from the dorm, Fuad Revez, the great field goal kicker for Tennessee. Next time you see your dad, William, say, Fuad. William, I mean, Dave, you remember Fuad Revez? The great
Tennessee had some
phenomenal kickers.
I think what's sad about that, I think there's another element that's sad about that Heisman race. Yeah, Peyton Manning should have probably won it.
Yeah.
But Charles Woodson is one of the top 5 or 6 defensive players ever to play in the NFL. I mean, I don't put him up there with Lawrence Taylor and Deion Sanders, but he's dadgum close. I mean, he was a tremendous player in the NFL, and I think certainly one of the top 25 players of all time, offense or defense. And so he gets kind of besmirched now because he stole Peyton's Heisman Trophy winner. But boy, Charles Woodson was a tremendous player at Michigan and then in the NFL.
He was. I mean, he 17 years he played in the NFL. What did Peyton play? 16, 17, something like that. They both had great careers. Another thing about Charles Woodson, you didn't ever see any trouble out of that guy. Just a badass and a cool guy.
And what's funny, like history kind of thinks that Peyton Manning won the Heisman Trophy. He didn't. He thinks he was the quarterback that won the national championship for Tennessee. He wasn't. It was Steve Martin.
Yeah.
So Peyton's legacy has not been tarnished by that Heisman race.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the greatest players ever. Bo Carter, you think about the Heisman Trophy now. What is it? Is it the award given to the best offensive player on the highest ranked team, or the player who makes sure everybody around him is raising their game? Does he, exhibit all the great traits of manhood, of masculinity? Does he paint his fingernails? Does he cry?
It's just about to become the best quarterback and running back, as Dave knows.
Yeah.
Real quick, Dave, I know you got to go too, but quick sidebar. Tennessee had 2 of the best PR, still does. Bud Ford and I are working, thankfully, tonight in the Cotton Bowl, one of the 2 of the all-time great PR with Haywood Harris. Tennessee athletic department decided they want to hire a consultant to push Peyton's thing. It was a lady from New York. I can't remember her name, but that kind of turned a lot of the voters off, unfortunately. And, Haywood and Bud
I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean, they were they did a great job, low keying it, sending flyers out every week, what he was doing. And I think, again, not to bash Tennessee, but they made
going.
Yeah, no, they just made a tactical error there. And, if they'd let their PR department handle it, they would have had no problems. But they this woman went out and got pushy with people. And I think made some calls to some higher up people in the journalism area, and and word got around. So, I mean, he really should have won. He deserved. They could have had co-Heisman winners that year. In my opinion.
Interesting bit of trivia here, William. Pat Sullivan won the Heisman Trophy at Auburn in 1971. 10 years later, I had this cool conversation. I met Buddy Davidson. He and David Housel were the sports information directors at Auburn. I met Buddy Davidson at Plainsman Park at an Auburn baseball game, and we were talking about the Heisman Trophy race. He said, and Buddy Davidson, who passed away a couple of years ago, just one of the finest, went to almost 800 consecutive Auburn games without missing. He said, Rob, back in that time, we would go to New York before the season to launch the campaign for the Heisman. So I'm up there with Howard Cosell. And Howard Cosell says, Buddy, Pat Sullivan at Auburn is a great player. But how is a player from a private school in Atlanta going to win the Heisman? And Buddy Davidson said he looked at Howard Cosell and said, Howard, Auburn's a state university in Alabama. He goes, oh, well, but how's he going to win it when Ed Marinaro at Cornell is such a great back? And so that's what you're dealing with. William, when you look at the Heisman Trophy, don't you want the All-American, alpha male, exhibits all the great traits of manhood? Yes or no, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Opens the door for ladies. Stands up at the table when a lady comes. Stands up when a lady leaves. The All-American guy, like you. Like your parents raised you, William, the intern. Is it Capricorn or Sagittarius? What are you? Libra? Don't you remember Billy Ray Valentine in the movie Trading Places? You got to watch that movie, William.
I've watched the movie. I've watched the movie before. I just can't remember which one I am for that.
Hey, this coffee is really good. Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. That's what it was.
And I got to sign off. Remember the halftime highlights brought to you by Muriel Whitehouse Cigars, where there's Muriel smoke, there's fire. Metropolitan Life, where the future is now, and Merrill Lynch, a breed apart. Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, third quarter action. It was hits like these that were indicative of the play.
Hey, right, you know what, though?
On Savant Saturday.
All right, Dave, take care, man. Merry Christmas. See you tomorrow morning. I appreciate it. All right. That was fun. I'm going to tell you one thing. Hey, William, I think you see where we're going with this. We're not hopeless romantics. We just respect the tradition that got us here. So when the Heisman Trophy winner now, is it the best player, the best offensive player on a college football team, or the player most likely to have a great pro career, or something in between? If you're writing a story, if someone said, William, write me a story, your editor came and said, write me a story, what does the Heisman Trophy represent in today's world?
Well, I think today, considering this recent one with Jayden Daniels, it's the best player, but it's kind of been different year to year with the best player from a team. I mean, who was it a year ago? I'm blanking. Who was last year? Best player.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. Actually, he was best player on the team. I don't know if he was the best team, but his team did well. And this season, LSU did well, but they didn't make it to the SEC championship or some kind of championship. I think it varies year to year. And I think you could probably say, if I was writing a story now, I'd probably define as obviously the best player that elevates his team around him. I mean, that's what all the MVPs in different sports, for the NFL or just basketball, that's what its most valuable player. I think that's what the Heisman is. Basically, it's the person that is the most valuable player on that team. And if you take that player away from that team, what do they become? It's like Jordan Travis. He was up there with the Heisman in the Heisman candidates. But once you took him away from that team, they weren't a playoff contender. So I think that's why he was considered a Heisman candidate, is because he elevated his team to where they were. But now that he's not there, he was taken out of that.
Yeah. I mean, you go back, and it's funny, in 1998, the year after Peyton, he was in the NFL, a rookie with the Colts. And I was at the Auburn-Tennessee game, and Jamal Lewis, Tennessee's running back from Decatur, Georgia, Southwest DeKalb High School, went around right end and broke his kneecap when he ran into the Auburn defensive back and was out. And they brought in a guy named Travis Henry from Frostproof, Florida, to finish out the season at running back. And I said, it's going to be a year like this now that Peyton's gone when y'all win the national championship. And Tennessee ended up winning the national championship. But Peyton versus, T. Martin. T. Martin was from Williamson High School in Mobile. And Damian Craig and him were buddies. He was going to take over for him at Auburn. That was the plan. And then Terry Bowden fired Rodney Garner, Auburn's recruiting coordinator, 2 weeks before signing date. And Rodney took a whole bunch of studs up to Tennessee. 3 years later, those guys were all hoisting the national championship trophy in the desert after they beat Florida State for the national championship. All right, let's look at this. Right now, all these bowl games, there are 44 bowl games, Bo. You're out there at the Cotton Bowl. I don't think Missouri's had many players quit on the team. And Ohio State did. They had a lot of guys leave. Georgia, 16 players last week were in the portal, gentlemen. 5 of them were rated 5-star coming out of high school. Okay. 8 of them rated 4-star, and 3 of them rated 3-star. Okay. Florida State's got close to 30 guys who have quit on their team. Again, don't call it opting out. Don't, you know what, down my neck and tell me it's raining. I'm not stupid. This is a problem. And Florida State now is throwing a fit. I'm going to tell you, Johnny Ballpark Franks is my Florida State guy when he's on this show. Graduated from there, knew Coach Bowden very well. I think what kept them out of the playoff was the ACC was perceived as not that strong this year. Miami's down. Virginia Tech's down. Clemson's down. North Carolina's down. But NC State, they won 9 games. They're pretty darn good. Probably would have won a 10th if Peyton Wilson would have played, the Butkus Award winner. And not, you think those other guys aren't concerned about their future? You're on a team. Together, everyone achieves more. What do y'all think about what I just said?
It's amazing, Robert. There was a talk a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine who's an attorney had a good point too. He said at some point the bowls are going to probably put a provision there that if more than like 10 players, they'll select a random number. If more than 10 players quit, opt out before the bowl game, the other school gets $500,000 less than what they would have gotten for the. It's not trying to hold a gun to people's head, but just at least to make you commit, because the I think Florida State's down its 3rd or 4th team quarterback. Rodemacher transferred the other day or whatever. So, and then plus they got Jordan Travis hurt. So, William might have to go down there and get eligible and play quarterback for the Seminoles.
And William, again, I've got kids, 23, 25, 27, and 35. You're our generation's, my generation's kids. You're like us. I don't know where this narrative, this whole NIL deal, William, I tell you want to do a cool story? If I were your editor, I'd say, William, I want you to write a story about what fueled NIL. Ed O'Bannon, the basketball player at UCLA, in a video game. Okay. And I also want to know, William, I'm going to throw this at you. If you're a first-year law student, can you go practice law? If you're a first-year medical student, can you perform surgery?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? You can't sell securities as a financial advisor or a bond salesman till you pass the Series 7. All 250 questions, you got to get at least like a 72 or a 75. You can't until you earn it. And William, you know what? You will not be a college graduate until you complete all the requirements. You ever see that movie, The Great Northern Woods, with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd? It's one of the funniest movies. They go to this steakhouse, and John Candy, you've seen him before, big fella, big fat guy. He's funny as he's dead now, but he was hilarious. And they had this challenge to eat the old 96er. It was a 96-ounce steak. You had to eat it in one sitting. And so he's almost through, and he goes, "Oh, I'm almost done." And he had peeled off all the gristle and the fat and put it on the side of the plate. And the butcher came out and said, "Nope, you got to eat everything on the plate." And he had to eat all that gristle. He went into like a food coma for about 2 days. He was stoved up, man. But William, I don't think your generation's not the problem. It's the parents that are pushing all this crap. You don't want the bar to be lowered, do you? You don't want to get a college degree, because without earning it, do you? You know better than that. You went to one of the toughest schools anywhere, MUS. Mm-hmm. You got an honor code. Were there locks on your lockers at MUS, William?
There was not.
That's right. Why is that?
Because of the honor code.
That's right. Okay. So my point with you is, if you're writing a story about NIL, let's say you were an athlete and you got $1 million NIL deal from Alpo dog food, okay? Or from, odor eaters, you put those in your shoes, odor eater bowlers wear them. What would you do with that $1 million? Would you put it away with a financial advisor like moi? Or would you go out clubbing and buying you a Lamborghini and giving money to all your friends that will certainly pay you back in due time?
Yeah,
I doubt that.
I would. I'd probably give half of it towards investments or savings, and then the other half, or another 250,000, I'd probably give away to charity or something, and then another 250, I don't know, towards college or something else. I don't know, just split it up evenly and stuff like that. I've already got some stocks that my dad helped me invest in when I was younger, so it's already growing, and that would be nice to have, especially when I retire.
Yeah. So where I'm going with this is, William, you're a great kid. We wouldn't have you on the show if you weren't. And all these people that are on this show, they text me and they go, when is William going to be available to be hired? You're getting in, I mean, with Bo Carter, Ken Capps, all these different ones. And so, don't buy into this narrative that your generation is this lost cause. By the way, Bo Carter, and I can tell you, every generation says that about the ones that
that's on before.
Go watch an episode of My Three Sons with Uncle Charlie. That old grouch, he was in the Merchant Marines. He would always say, "You kids don't understand." You've been hearing that since the end of time. And so you watch TV now, and there's this narrative. Oh, this generation, it's a lost. Don't buy into it. Please. Don't buy into it. All right. Flipping the switch. Now, college football, college basketball. The two sports are kind of, college football, January 8th, we wrap it up. National championship game is going to be played. Let's talk about it right now, starting with you, Bo. You got Michigan and Alabama playing in the Rose Bowl, Texas and Washington in the Sugar Bowl, and all these other big games as well. Let's talk about that Alabama matchup with Michigan, and then after that, I want Williams' thoughts. Bo?
Well, I read something earlier in the paper this week that Nick Saban is planning for in case Michigan steals signals again. They're going to do like TCU last year with dummy plays and dummy signals from the sidelines to sort of throw them off. So I don't know, but that's going to be one heck of a game. Michigan's going to try to run the ball. Alabama's defense, I think, can stymie them a little bit, and then Alabama's going to open it up a little bit. Milroe has gotten better and better every week, and I think if Texas and Alabama had played later in the season, Alabama probably would have won because he sort of had an off day and he's become a better leader now. And then Washington, Texas, Ken's pulling for a Alabama-Texas rematch in the national championship. And Washington kind of limped through the season. To me, Georgia and Ohio State, even though Washington could have been the odd man out on that deal too, because they beat Oregon during the regular season. Oregon missed a field goal and just beat them by 3 in the championship game. They were not world beaters by any means. So it's I always love it. I wish they had the 12 teams this year. Would have really made it even more interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of that, William, Bo Davis, Rodney Garner, the two best defensive line coaches that I see in college football. Rodney's up at Tennessee. Bo Davis was at Alabama. Now he's at Texas. That's the difference. And I think Texas is going to blow up the line of scrimmage in the Washington game. How do you see it, William, the intern?
Well, so I can agree with that, considering that Washington's defense isn't as strong as probably Texas's, or just on the other side of the ball where Texas is stronger than their Washington's offensive line. But I just think it's going to still be a pretty high-scoring game. I think that Michael Penix Jr. is still going to put up his stats and just be able to sling the ball anywhere he wants and be able to get to 40 points. I'm considering the total amount of points to be like somewhere near 70 or 80. I think it's going to be that high.
Texas, Washington.
In the game. Yes, Texas and Washington, and then that game I think is going to be the high-scoring one and the fun one to watch compared to Alabama and Michigan. Just because Alabama, Michigan doesn't score as much and is more defensive-minded, in my opinion. And just I think the Washington Texas game will be more fun to watch in terms of offense and just two quarterbacks that are really good.
Well, Bo Carter let me in on a secret that not many people know, but you ever watch those Texas A&M yell leaders? They're actually signaling in plays to the game. That's all I can think. Because I just don't understand what's going on over there. I mean, what are they doing? Does anyone has anyone like talked to someone who was a yell leader and they explained what's going on? I heard Big Jim Jack, one of Texas A&M's big boosters on the ticket in Dallas recently, goes, well, I was of course a yell leader. Grab my, I mean, they got incredible traditions at A&M. They really do. And their fans love that school. I just don't understand what the yell leaders are doing.
They have a whole week of orientation where they have to learn the various, they're like 20 or 30, 20 or 25 cheers they have to learn. Thank goodness that's not the case at Auburn. You used to, War Eagle or whatever, but it's
body get them.
Body, that's right.
Yeah.
But no, it's and they go. I mean, this goes back over a century, Rob. They really, the 12th man tradition, all the stuff. They had one in basketball. They used to, one of the coaches would stand up and they had like a brown suit on. They said, "Go back, go home, bus drivers."
Yeah, I want someone. I'd love to get a yell leader on here to explain what they are. All right, going to take a break. Let me say something about one of our sponsors. Justin Ross opened up his first shop, the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road in South Haven, Mississippi. Their hours of operation are as follows: Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m., 8 p.m. Sundays, 10:30 a.m., 7 p.m. You go to the Vitamin Shop, you're not going to hear people saying, I don't know, I just work here. They actually know what they're doing. They're health and nutritionist specialists. They actually care about what they recommend to you. I buy shot blocks. I buy goo. My wife and I both buy probiotics. Believe me, when you eat a lot of the food, especially during Christmas and New Year's holidays, you need them. You better have some probiotics or some Drano. But we have a blast. I love the Vitamin Shop. Again, 5338 Goodman Road in South Haven. You look on the website, they've got all kinds of specials, discounts, but they have products that you can use. If you're working out, you're taking care of yourself, which you better be doing, you need to be shopping at the Vitamin Shop. It's also going to open up a second location in Oxford, Mississippi, in early March. That one's under construction right now. Proud to be associated with them. Proud to have the Vitamin Shop with us. And we're going to take this quick break. You're going to see a little bit more about the Vitamin Shop, as Nigel calls it. And also make a point to get out to Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. All those good-looking clothes like Beth Dutton wears, Rip wears, John Dutton. They got all that. Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, STS, Filson, second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, Devil Dog Jeans, Ariat, Wrangler, Danner boots. I've got these new low-cut Danner hiking boots. Honestly, I could run a 10K in these things and it wouldn't hurt. They're that well made. We'll be right back.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Yeah, curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit.
right, Rob Browne here with you. Man, we're having a blast today talking college football, basketball, what's going on, NIL, you name it. Want to say something too about Web-Footed Kennels, one of our sponsors over in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I spent the afternoon with Chris Aiken over at his hunting lodge. You talk about a great dog trainer. They also produce some of the best dogs in the country. They do selected breedings. Just go to Web-Footed Kennels. It's all over social media, Facebook. Chris Aiken, we have him on the show a lot. I've known him 28 years. Was hunting with him last Saturday when we took off for Christmas. Talk about a great trainer. He's just he just has a gift for working with dogs. It was breaking in one of his personal golden retrievers, King. He had Cowboy come out there. Cowboy, unbelievable, one of the coolest dogs ever. But if you're gonna buy a dog, Chris pointed this out yesterday. 4 things that he looks for. He breeds for a good companion, a good pet, a great duck dog, and a great test dog. He said duck season's only like 60 days. Hunt test season, probably 20 days a season. The rest of that time, that dog's got to be a great family dog, a great companion. That's what he breeds for. That's what he does. And when you have your dog trained by Chris and his staff, he's got Scott Harp on that staff. He's just got a great team in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Web-Footed Kennels. Damn proud to be associated with them and have them as a sponsor. You're going to get a dog, do it right. Go to Web-Footed Kennels in the borough. All right, look, I want to ask you this. William, you're watching this deal with Florida State right now. You are familiar, and you do know that 31 years ago, Pat Dye, Hootie Ingram, the athletic director at Alabama, everybody in the SEC, they were trying to get Florida State to join the league. Bobby Bowden chose not to. They had multiple opportunities to do it. And now they had what happened to Auburn in 2004 when Auburn was undefeated, and did not get to go to the national championship because number 1, Oklahoma, and number 2, Southern Cal stayed undefeated all season long. What do you think about Florida State wanting to just blow up the ACC?
Well, I wanted to point out the point about being undefeated and winning a championship. I think some of the players are trying to do what UCF did in terms of they went undefeated when they beat Auburn in a bowl game and say, we should consider ourselves national champions if we're the only team left. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's a 1% chance they beat Georgia because of all the players that they left. And also, I don't trust their quarterback at all. But I think the whole ACC thing is just it stinks for the ACC because that's probably one of the few teams that they've got left that's a big powerhouse in football. As of right now, I don't think Louisville was that great this year, honestly, even though they were a top 10 team. I think their quarterback was just not watching him play was unbearable for me in that ACC championship game. But anyways, I think it's a tough situation for the ACC and for Florida State. They want to go to the Big Ten is what I'm hearing and not the SEC. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Going to Florida State, going to the Big Ten. I mean,
that would be crazy.
That would be nuts.
That'd
their
be
fans,
stupid.
I don't think their fans really have ever, really embraced the ACC. They're in the SEC footprint.
Exactly.
Florida may not want them in the league, but I'm telling you.
Well, Texas A&M didn't win Texas, so
that's
it didn't matter. It's all a big money grab. So
and you know what? I mean, William, when I was at SEC Media Days, July of 21 at the Winfrey Hotel in Hoover, and it was announced when Jimbo Fisher was up on the podium talking about Texas A&M, a writer, a wolf in sheep's skin or a lamb's skin clothing said, "What do you think about the inquiries from OU and Texas about joining the SEC?" I mean, Jimbo was like, he was about to explode because he didn't want to talk about that. But someone said, well, they got to vote on it. And I said, that's a done deal. They don't bring that up unless it's already a done deal. But William, Florida State's got a great tradition. I mean, unbelievable. They got an awesome tradition. They didn't start playing football till 1948. Bo, Bobby Bowden started in 1976 after leaving West Virginia. They hung him in effigy on the town square. He was ridiculed and made sport of, as they would talk, as Carl would say in the movie Sling Blade. Them youngins used to make sport of me. I kind of wanting some other good to eat in there. Carl, if we let you out of prison, you ain't gonna, go crazy and kill nobody, are you? I reckon I got no reason to kill nobody. Well, Carl, that being said, I don't have any choice but to let you leave here. Well, I've been out here at the Nervous Hospital for a while, and I reckon I'll find something to do. Maybe I'll go over there and MJ will make me some deviled hawk eggs and possum innards and hog jowls. But, you think about that. You got to see the movie Sling Blade, William. But Bo, your thoughts about what I just said. Not the hog jowls and deviled hawk eggs, but
hey, Rob, you put it in perspective right there. I think Florida had something to do. Bobby Bowden made the right choice there because they were dominating the ACC and still have for years, really. And even although Clemson, give Dabo Swinney credit, man, they won a couple of national championships in between that Florida State.
Look, they played 4 times in 5 years. People act like Clemson's this nothing program. Look at Georgia. They won in 1980. They didn't play for the national championship again for 41 years.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Audrey and I, William, we were at Costco Christmas Eve. You know what book we bought? Aesop's Fables. There's 487 of them. And one of Aesop's Fables, you studied him. I know that William studied him because at MUS you're required to learn about the antiquities and about literature and about the duality of man. And you too, Bo. But in one of Aesop's Fables, Georgia went 41 years between national championships. And the schools that border Georgia, Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia Tech there in Atlanta, down in the flats, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Florida, and Miami won a combined 26 national championships in that 41-year period, William. And Georgia was having to, thank you, sir, may I have another? Pow, kick me. And you think about it, but there's a story in Aesop's Fables about the ass, the ape, and the mole. And the ass says, well, everyone's always making fun of me because I've got big floppy ears and a goofy tail. Well, and the ape says, well, I wish I had a big bushy tail like Mr. Fox. And the mole says, well, you guys, you know what? I'm mostly blind and deaf. I don't have much of a tail, and I've always got to worry about you guys stepping on me and squishing me. So why don't you be grateful for what you have?
That's right.
Boy, I'm getting really deep this morning.
No. Gratitude is a good thing. By the way, when William writes that NL story, 2 people in each call, Suni Lee, obviously, out in Los Angeles. We might got a new candidate for you, Caitlin Clark. She's making like $1 million. She gives 20. She's on State Farm commercials with.
Come up, William. We can only see a part of your head.
That's right.
You look like a microcephalic. There you go. You go.
But you got the comment right beneath me.
Right. And Rob,
Kelly Lee.
You'll love that. Oh yeah. And she donated $25,000 to the food bank in the Iowa City area. So I wish
she did.
You really see some good. Yeah. Blake Corum, the running back at Michigan gave like 250 turkeys. You really love to see these kids taking that NIL money and doing so. And it's not just right off there trying to be, be community servants like we all try to do.
Good. And like William just comes from an awesome family, and his grandfather, God, he was really smart. And, that's the thing, William, you hear about. Nobody has to give to charity. And in fact, you love it when it's just spontaneous or organic. If you got $1 million in NIL, you said you'd put $500,000 in your investment account and work with your advisor. You take $250 of it and give it away to charity, and the other $250 you'd pay for college. I guess what makes me go BSC, and y'all know what those initials stand for, bat spit crazy, is if someone has $1 million and they're 19 or 20 years old, if they can have the foresight to look out 10, 20, 30 years from now, what that $1 million could be worth if diversified and invested properly. That's all I'm saying. And William, you've got it figured out. What is the biggest story right now in college football? Is it Florida State trying to blow up the ACC? William, I mean, if they blow up the ACC and Clemson bails, you've got a fire sale and the ACC will be gone.
Is it the big, it's obviously catching headlines right now, but I think that's what all these other schools did. They caught headlines when they moved. So, I mean, to me, it's just another school moving. I mean, yes, it's a big program and it's from a different conference, but is it yes, it's the biggest story probably right now in college football because of what's going on. And we haven't had the college football playoff yet, considering that team was left out. And the reason why is because ACC to their standards wasn't as strong in terms of scheduling. So that's why it's the biggest college football story right now. But I think once the college football playoff comes around, which is in a few days, it's going to be out of the wind and it's not going to matter as much anymore once we get to the college football playoff.
Well, you think about what, Bo, the story here is that isn't being reported. Florida State is saying the ACC isn't good enough, that we're better than them. And here's a question. Was Clemson's ascension to the top of the college football world where they played for the national championship in 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2019, they won 2 and lost 2. Was that due directly to Florida State being over on the side of the road as a dumpster fire for several years with Willie Taggart and just a mess, some bad hires? Was it just that? Because Clemson's they've been around a long time. They've got some pretty damn good tradition. Mac Brown's trying to get North Carolina up. Virginia Tech, they used to be a lot tougher. Frank Beamer ball, that was a 28-year run. Awesome. Miami, the way they're recruiting, I don't know how they're not going to be winning big again. But is Florida State jumping the gun, or are they just, too good for the ACC and they think that they'll do better elsewhere? But if they really want to go, if they think they're that good, why wouldn't they try to join the SEC?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rob. And again, I give Clemson credit. Dabo got over there, got the Saban mentality. He played actually for Gene Stallings, one of our all-time favorite people.
Yes.
But, Dabo went in there with the winning mentality, recruited well. So same thing Kirby Smart did at Georgia. You could overcome Saban at some point. It's hard to do, but no, Florida State, the real big problem is this grant of rights deal that the ACC signed. Their members were all griping because they weren't making SEC, Big 10, Big 12 TV money. So they signed a grant of rights about 5 years ago through 2036, which really, and there's a giant exit fee involved with that. They're pretty much behind the 8 ball. So they had to sue the ACC to try to get out of that thing. So their hands are tied in a way, but they're in another way. There are ways to break out of that.
Well, we brought this up earlier in the show. We need a strong voice for college football, a commissioner. Perhaps we get Commissioner Gordon from Gotham City, like in Batman. I'm Commissioner Gordon. But let me tell you something. I've learned about board meetings. If you've got a big table with big comfortable chairs in a plush office with a view over the river or out on the Gulf. Notice I don't say the ocean. I say the Gulf because I'm not a Yankee. But we love Yankees. But when you come down here, call it the Gulf of Mexico. It's not the ocean of Mexico. It's the Gulf. But anyway, you ask yourself this question, and that is board meetings. When you've got that big, long table and it's comfortable, you're there for 2 or 3 hours with a bunch of people just making empty promises about what they're going to do for you. Do like they do in the Ranger Battalion. Get those those round tables where you have to stand around them. The board meeting take about 5 minutes or less. All right, here's the mission. This is what we're going to be doing. This is who's doing it with us. Any questions? Now raise your hand. Okay, if not, hooah, let's go. That's how you get stuff done. Florida State, if they don't leave the ACC, William, are they damaging their brand?
Well, yeah. I think they are. I would say they are because unless they go to the Big Ten. If they go to the Big Ten, I think they're damaging it even more because they're going into just a bigger, I don't like them going to the Big Ten. I think if they go to the SEC, it'll help their brand even more. But either way, just don't go to the Big Ten. That's off the book. I would not go there. Otherwise, I'd probably stay in the ACC, honestly, and just see how you can do there, especially with the 12-team playoff coming up. That's what I would do if I were Florida State.
Well, I think what we got is a case of Little Red Riding Hood. You know, the Big Ten, the alliance that was formed during the draconian lockdowns during the virus pandemic, you know, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, oh, we're all bosom buddies, aren't we? Yeah. No, they were not. No, we're not. Because the Big Ten, went and robbed the Pac-12 and basically blew it up. And the ACC, be careful about befriending the Big Ten. They're not your friends. I mean, why do you have such big ears, Grandma? So better to hear you coming. And why the big teeth, Grandma? So as to better gnaw on a corn on the cob. I mean, come on. The Big Ten is the wolf in sheep's clothing. That's what they are, Bo. That's the story, isn't it?
Well, it is. And then, the Big 12 got blindsided. I don't know the whole story about this, but I know Bob Bowlesby, who's retired as Big 12.
But they recovered quickly from the
they recovered. They saved themselves by getting the 4 schools at Brigham Young too, of course, with they kind of made their geographical foot a little bit of a kind of a Conference USA type worldwide there.
But they did. But they recovered quickly.
And they did. They really did. And Bob Bowlesby was sort of in shock, and it kind of led to his. I think he retired on his own terms, but I know people were a little bit upset that he was in meetings with Greg Sankey for about 2 years, or on an NCAA football committee, and he didn't realize that they were working to get Oklahoma and Texas. Ken's probably got some good insight on, or probably would have some good insight on this, but no, you're right. If the ACC doesn't take some proactive moves here, they're going to really again it could blow quickly. I've heard some stuff that they might try to go ahead and get some American Athletic Conference teams in there that are in that area over there, and maybe a Navy or someone like that, and sort of rebuild.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen the movie Goodfellas, don't sit with your back to the window. You want to see who's coming in. And what did Tommy say? Robert De Niro, the one thing about it is when they're going to whack you, you never know. You never see it coming. They invited Tommy over for a celebration. Bam! They whacked him. It was so bad, had to have a closed casket. Not even his mother could see what was left of him. That's what went on. That's really what's happened. The Big Ten, Kevin Warren, one of the worst commissioners I've seen. I mean, that guy was terrible. But we better watch out. The thing about the SEC, we're about out of time, is look behind me. It is a contiguous footprint, okay? All these schools are connected. So if the SEC makes another move to add, I'm going to throw this out there, and it's not like it's oh, my God, Rob said this. It's going to be Notre Dame because the fastest growing Christian denomination in the Southeast is the Catholic Church. Remember this. It's the church. And Notre Dame would fit in very well because of their appreciation of tradition, history, and heroes. They're going to be the 17th team in the SEC. They will be. I'll predict it right now. I'll bet you a box of fluorescent bulbs, some sponges, and a 30 rack of Ham's beer and a steamer pack of crystals. That's what happens. All right. William, we're out of time. let me say most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. You know, in some mediums today, you really don't have free speech. You're drinking the Kool-Aid and towing the party line. We ardently revere the right of free speech here. If you ask us a question, does the dress make me look fat? Not that any of us are wearing dresses. We're men, okay? I'll tell you yes or no. But William the intern, a sophomore at 6'1", 183 pounds, running a 4.45 40 for the Auburn Plainsmen. Tell them how they can follow you, social media, and you got a podcast you're starting to work on, and then follow that up, Bo, and then we will check out and see you tomorrow.
I was actually hoping you would bring up the podcast because I wanted
You
to
need to bring it up. You have free reign on this show. You know that.
Okay. All right.
Remind, just because you're younger doesn't mean you don't have rights and privileges. Feel free to walk around the cabin. The smoking sign is on.
Well, I know the following you have on the show, and I'd love to share it to your followers. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Absolutely.
Especially because my sister thinks that nobody listens to my podcast, and she's grilling me on it, even though I'm like, this is my 4th episode, and I've got 21 people listening to it. So I think that's a good start. But my podcast, I do it with one of my friends that I go to school with. His name's Cooper Harrelson, and the podcast is called Tiger Take Podcast. We talk a list of things in terms of Auburn football, Auburn basketball, then we go into different sports, and then we have our takes on different games throughout the week. And we're looking to get some different guests on the show. Maybe one of you two would love to pop on in sometime in the near future, but that's where you can follow me on. I've also got an Instagram as well. Just look me up on there. Still
go to Tiger Take on YouTube.
Tiger Take is not on YouTube yet. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yes. So that's me.
Look, you know what? And I mean, Bo, this is the thing about it. True Grit Journalism, doing a podcast. Just, you know what? And I've watched it. It's really good. They've got great equipment. You know, it doesn't sound like they're yelling in a tomato can. It's really good. It's put together well. And I'm going to tell you something. I would listen to it if I were you, because you know what? William and his partner actually take time and do research to prepare it. I mean, it's good. I like it. Bo, how can they follow you?
Yes, and I always give plainsman.com. You read the great works of William on that, really covering many sports, including gymnastics, William.
Yes.
It's on X. It's at Bo Carter 52. Sports page at dfw.com, and also the Texas Sports Daily. So we're branching out.
My advice to everyone watching a lot of college football, eating a lot of food, good food, and don't drive, get up, stretch around, do a bunch of push-ups, a lot of football, and drink every third beer, drink a glass of water. That's what I recommend. Hey, have a great day, everybody. We'll be back on tomorrow morning for Savant Saturday. We're blessed to have you, our listeners and our followers. We'll see you tomorrow.